Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Clinic Gym Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Satterley, and it's an honor today to be with the smartest man in the gym business as far as legal issues for tiny gyms with blended clinics in Nevada, in Henderson, at this house, the smartest man alive, Kevin Diamond. How are you, Kevin?
Hi, doing okay.
Now, Kevin, for those of my listeners who are out there in all parts of the U.S. and the world, can you tell everybody like who you are and what you do?
Sure. I grew up in Las Vegas since I was about 3 years old. I would call myself a gym rat. My father was a bookie, so that kept me coming back to the casinos over and over and over. I'm now a partner at a law firm called Thorndall Armstrong, Delk, Balkenbush, and Eisinger here in Las Vegas. I've been practicing for about 25 years and kind of turned my gym rat status into attorneys for gyms, basically. So I represent some larger clubs and smaller clubs, and some of them, like you say, are blended clubs.
Yeah. Well, that's how I know you, is you helped us out with some legal issues along the way. And it was great because we got somebody that seen all the dumbass moves that people make in a gym on the large scale, and we got to apply that to our tiny little clinic gym hybrid facility here in Henderson, right?
Right. If it wasn't for stupid people, I wouldn't have a job, essentially.
Yes. Now, you guys are in for a treat because I know we got a lot of legal issues, and let's maybe establish a little disclaimer. This is not legal advice, although it may be like information, right?
Well, it could be seen as advice. I would caution people that, I'm from Nevada. I've only practiced in Nevada, so you would always want to check with your state, with
sure,
the rules for each state.
Your attorney buddies find out you're doing this for non-billable hours. I mean, it's over, right?
That's right. I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, so we have to, you should always find a good attorney because like Kevin was ours, when you have an issue and basically you get to turn it over to the attorney and just say, handle this crazy person, it's very relieving to know that can happen.
Yeah, it's always, it's going to sound like a commercial, but it's always good to have an attorney on board, even to come take a look around your place before something happens. Last thing you want to do is to have to call an attorney after something happens.
Right. And for those of hopefully that people here aren't legal experts because they haven't been engaged in a law firm, Kevin works for, say, a big box gym that might have gyms in every state, but they're looking for a local person, right? In every state, not just Nevada, but in California, they'll have their local people, maybe a few of them.
Right.
And that's because there are certain laws that affect every state a little bit differently, right?
Right.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll get into some juicy legal advice later, but let's talk first about, let's talk crap about people because it's way more fun. But Kevin, you've seen quite a few funny cases along the way of people being complete idiots sometimes.
Right.
And then sometimes where the gym was a complete idiot and they did something wrong. You have any good cases you could share the nuts and bolts of for people to kind of illustrate maybe where things went wrong? How about first a client that did something, sued the gym, and was completely out of bounds on what they did?
Well, there's certainly a lot of those, but one that comes to mind is an elderly woman who was at a swimming pool right before her aqua class, and she tripped over one of those noodles. They're neon colored, and there was a stack of them, and she tripped over the entire stack.
Okay.
Which I don't think there's anything that could be more open or more obvious than a stack of neon noodles that she tripped over. So that case went away very, very quickly.
Okay. But nonetheless, she sued and asked for money.
Right.
Yeah, as people seem to do, right?
Right.
Okay.
And, like I said, I'm not all that familiar what happens in each state, but if other states are anything like Nevada, there are always some plaintiff attorneys, maybe smaller plaintiff attorneys who need to pay the rent. And, they will take cases that might not be the best in the world and to see if they can develop it into something. And I respect that. And I also respect if we can show them that perhaps it's not the best case in the world, that then they'll, dismiss it at that time. So, and it happens all the time. But in the interim, unfortunately, the defense clients, the gyms, the clubs still have to pay, or their insurance companies, depending how it works, still have to pay their bills and still have to incur fees. So all you can do to keep even the bad cases from happening, you should do. So in that instance, yeah, it was a stupid case. However, the noodles probably shouldn't have been there. It's just, she tripped over them. She probably should have seen where she was going, but the case wouldn't have even come out if the noodles had been, put away for the day.
All right. Well, and that's how we develop policies and procedures, right? As we get sued once for it, we develop a policy, and then we hopefully never get sued again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how it comes
Well,
out.
we had one, then I'll just sing your praises, Kevin. We had one where a woman, we were doing a workout that was kind of like a, indoor little Spartan challenge, you could say. And we're doing some different events and blah, blah, blah. And a woman fell basically on her back. It appeared to me that she let go of the apparatus. She claims she didn't, but whatever. And the thing was, the thing where Kevin really shined was she said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to sue you. Don't even sweat it.
Yeah.
It was my fault, blah, blah, blah." And Kevin's smiling right now for those of you who can't see his face because Kevin said, "Write it down, document it. She's going to sue you." And I said, no. Like, you don't understand, Kev. Like, she's nice, been a member for, a year or two. She loves us. And your response was,
"Yep,
document it. She's going to sue you."
The people who say they're not going to sue are the most likely.
Right. The ones that it's like going to the auto dealer and like, "Listen, I would never lie to you.
Right.
I'm going to give you an honest deal. Like, there's one thing about it. I'm honest." The alarm bells should be going off at that point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And sure enough, the statute of limitations is how long on those things? To start?
Well, in Nevada, it's 2 years from the date of an accident. Unless it's a minor, then it's 2 years after the minor's 18th birthday.
So this happened the week of Thanksgiving. I remember that just out of my mind. And the lady got injured. She stopped coming to our gym. Never thought about her again after a year. And then the next year in October, mid-October, when it's starting to get close to the statute of limitations, but bam, we get served with a lawsuit. And Kevin, being the nice guy that he is, just smiled and said, "I'll help you out."
Yeah.
He didn't do the "I told you so" dance in front of us. I don't know if you did it when you walked out of the building.
No, I didn't do the "I told you so" dance, but I think she realized, she threatened it, then she didn't bring it. I think she realized that you folks weren't just going to, you and your insurance carrier weren't just going to roll over.
She asked for us to treat her for free, actually, now that you're bringing that up. I remember that. And you said, "Don't do it. She's going to sue you anyways."
Right.
And I said, "Oh, no, man, this is different. She's one of the nice ones, Kev. Don't be so jaded." Like, there's a reason I'm jaded.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyways, all right. So that's one. How about a good case where the gym was at fault or did something stupid? Somebody didn't repair something or didn't get a form filled out?
No, I have a good one. It involved a woman who was a little overweight, and there was a boot camp, and they decided it was nice weather. They decided to do the boot camp outside, and they set up the tires and whatnot. But one of the parts of the boot camp was box jumps. But instead of putting out the type of apparatus to jump on, which had seals on the bottom or rubber on the bottom so it wouldn't move, they put out things to jump on that was just metal on the bottom. So even the best box jumper, if you hit the top, it would still slide a little bit. This particular woman said that she wasn't comfortable box jumping, and the trainer who was leading the boot camp assured her that she could do it over and over and over instead of giving her a modification. And sure enough, she jumped up. She just missed the jump and fell backwards, put her hand out, and broke her wrist pretty significantly. And we paid, and we should have paid, and we did pay. So.
And that's not where it ended, though, right? You went back and said, "Hey, dummy."
Yeah.
Sorry, trainer guy, come here.
Yeah, right. Don't do that again.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of stuff like, you're talking about boot camps, and the crazy thing is, like, it's a nightmare scenario, or you can look at it as a field of diamonds, right? Like, you got one coach, 20 people doing what could be dangerous stuff. Like, you think box jumps, and I've seen a ton of time when the people are like essentially leading with their feet hit the box, their butt is nowhere near getting the center of gravity over the box, and now they're basically tipping back. And it's like either this person's going to land on their back and whack their head, which I'm sure has happened a ton, or the box is going to fly out in front of them and maybe get in the way of somebody. There's a ton of stuff. Here's one for you. I was at a CrossFit one time. We were doing sledgehammer. You have big tire. You got a sledgehammer. Bang, bang, bang. And I'm slamming this thing, and guy across from me slamming the thing. And we're beating the hell out of this tractor tire. And all of a sudden he hits, and the head of the sledgehammer comes off.
Oh my gosh.
And flies maybe 12 inches by my face. And you wouldn't notice if it hit me. I'm not that good looking anyway. So, but it flies back and I don't know where it goes because it just goes behind me. But I was thinking, hell, if that thing had hit the person across from you, I mean, it's got some heft to it. It's now it's super fast. And the best part was, you're in the middle of workout, brosif. Like you can't stop. So he just like looks at the coach and the coach just says, grab a dumbbell and hit it with that. Class ends and we grab the head of the sledgehammer like, oh, I guess we need to fix this. No thought to, holy shit, we could have died,
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, certainly, you don't have time, especially if you're running a club and if you're what I would call a mom and pop club. You don't have time to do 4 hours of inspections of every piece of equipment every day, but you should at the very least think through what the routine's going to be for that day or what your equipment looks like. The more you can do to try to prevent, the better off you'll be. And so many people, that's between legal issues and advertising, I would say, is always at the end of your list when you're trying to set up a new club. I don't know much about advertising, but I know that, at least from my standpoint, legal issues should be thrown a little higher because it could ruin you. I mean, you could have to close your whole place if you're a mom and pop, and if, like the example you gave about the woman who fell onto her back. I mean, luckily, because I recall you telling me about the incident. Somebody kind of partially caught her on the way down. But if there was no one under her, let's say someone was doing it, and because she fell from about how high you think it was?
Probably 7 feet.
Right.
I mean, her body was at 7 feet, and not.
Yeah. So you guys at least were smart enough to have spotters underneath. But if you hadn't had spotters underneath and she fell straight from 7 feet down, I mean, it could have closed your gym. I mean,
And luckily there were other people working out, participants in the class that said, we saw her, it wasn't the equipment, she just let go. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, luckily, a he said, she said, and no other witnesses, which I'm sure you've seen. And there's always those issues. So, that's a lot of gyms have gone out, or hell, businesses in general, right? Have gone out because of a lawsuit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about some protection then, since you brought that up.
Okay.
We can always tell funny stories about people, right? You got a plethora of them.
Right.
So if you're talking to somebody who's already a chiropractor or physical therapist, they're already operating a clinic and they go, hey, I want to add a gym and it's going to share the same space. So this isn't like a gym across town, but like it's going to share the same space. Basic advice starting out. Number one, hire an attorney, find somebody that's good, right?
Right. There you go. That's always first.
Right.
You're going to want to, and you may have talked about this. I might be duplicating what you told me earlier before we started that you already had a podcast with the insurance gentleman.
Ken Reining from theinsuranceguy.com. Yeah.
Certainly you're going to want to start with getting the right insurance, getting the right coverages. But even then, I'd recommend having an attorney at that point because although, Ken does almost exclusively clubs and gyms, you still want to have an attorney take a look and make sure that the exclusions don't overrun the policy. I mean, there might be exclusions in the policy. I'll give you an example with like home insurance. If you have a dog, some states, they won't let you insure a pit bull.
Okay.
And if you miss that and you have a pit bull and a little kid comes over and gets bitten by your pit bull and you look at your insurance and say, hey, you're covering that, they'll point out that clause. Well, if you don't have someone who enjoys reading those tiny words of, 500 pages like I do, you can be in trouble. So there's the insurance aspect. There's the safety aspect, when you're even during the design phase is taking a look and seeing how it's designed. If you're going to have a wet area, if you're going to have a shower, how that's going to be designed. And I know all of this sounds like it's a cost, and it is. Like, for example, I use OSHA safety experts for different things, and I would recommend to a new club to have somebody come in during the design phase. But the money you spend up front, saves you the money in the back of being sued. The other thing that I think,
to your point, by the way, Ken brought up the fact that like he was helping somebody out with an insurance policy, and he told them, they didn't realize this, but the insurance policy only covered within the walls of the gym.
Huh.
Now you think how many times we've gone outside or we've, done testing outside or anything where it's like, you just go outside and maybe we're doing rowing or something that we're just like,
running.
hey, let's go run. Yeah. And, somebody's running, sprains their ankle in the parking lot. Guess what? Your insurance doesn't cover you there,
Right.
And so he would always put in I don't know what you call it, addendum.
Addendum, yeah.
Yeah. Tell you this covers people. Anybody starts in the gym and leaves and comes back, like that's considered part of the workout.
Right. So there's things to look for.
It's because these slimy attorneys, man.
That's right.
They've been screwing people out of money left and right.
They're bloodsuckers, that's for sure.
Nah, but Kev's one of the good guys. But
and the other thing I think you may have talked about probably with Ken is about the forming the different companies also.
So let's talk about that. So I'll just go over our setup because you recommended it was basic silo both sides. Have it 2 LLCs. One is a clinic, one is a gym. Now they cohabitate space, but so what? That happens all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the difficult part, I find, right? You registered the LLC with the state, you've done all that stuff. You're insured separately, right? There's a malpractice or general liability.
Yeah, you definitely need to separate insurance for sure because one's for medical and one's for general liability. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it has all that. Any other structures to legally set up, establish the business with?
Well, it gets complicated, and I'm sure any person listening.
That's code for it's going to start costing a lot of money here.
Any person listening knows that it's not easy running something that's two things at once, basically. But commingling funds. I mean, you want to be careful because if you have other people that are in your LLC, let's say you or a partnership, whatever you're going to do, and you have other members, and there's a lawsuit later on. And there's a lot of assets in one of the LLCs, but not in the other, then you got to watch out for that too. So you want to be careful about commingling funds between the two different companies.
Okay. So it might be worth even talking to your accountant. Hey, I'm adding this gym.
Right.
Here's how we're setting it up. But that may affect the way of the corporate structure on the clinic side. If it was originally a professional corporation providing services for it, pass through, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That's all got to jive.
Right.
Right.
And the biggest, I know that in dealing with the club that you were at, the biggest concern that I always had was advertising that it was a physician-run club.
Physician supervised fitness was our original marketing employee.
Yeah. Because at your club, not to beat up on you on your own show, but on your club, not every class was taught by a physician.
Right.
So if someone were to come in and get injured during during one of the training sessions, and it wasn't a physician that was running it, that perhaps wouldn't have had somebody do something the same way, you got two problems. Not only were they injured, but then they're going to say that there was a misrepresentation. So you really have to think these are two separate businesses. They're two separate entities. And before we started, you and I were talking about, when you're done with your clinic and if you're going to come teach a class, you kind of got to take your lab coat off, so to speak, and put on your gym clothes and you switch hats. I mean, that doesn't mean that if someone's injured during one of your classes, you're going to turn a blind eye and not help them, but it's separate. I mean, you're a trainer at that point. You just have more qualifications than other trainers. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And more student debt, of course.
Yeah, more student debt. That's right.
Okay. So how do we actually pull that off? Like, I mean, that's great to say in all regards, but how do we go about doing that? When you say take off your lab coat, like you always coach me up, like literally change your clothes. So I'm not wearing the clinic logo on my shirt when I'm coaching, because then it's not that you're breaking the seal, but you're asking for trouble, right? You're blending it too much.
Right.
So what would you, besides like physically change your clothes, and it's like easy, like put on a polo and shorts, like you would never work in the clinic in shorts and running shoes, so do that. And I would always throw on a hat, like, because I'd never wear a hat in a clinic, right?
Right. But obviously it isn't just about clothes. You want to be careful not to mix treating and, being a trainer. And especially, if you have that talent, for example, the chiropractor, if you are very good with adjustments, very good with helping people out with back issues, if someone, again, if it's an emergency and someone's injured, I mean, if someone was injured on the street, you would probably stop and help them. But that's a different story. But if you get someone in your training session who says, hey, my neck's a little stiff. Can you crack it before, you adjust it before we have this session? You kind of got to say no. But I'd be happy to take you in for an appointment, after or in the next few days. Or, you say, look, if you're hurting, if it's really limiting you, you shouldn't. I would advise as a trainer, not even as a physician, not to go through with the session and come to me, in the clinic, and we'll see if, how you do.
Right. So don't just lay them down as everybody's on foam rollers and I go, Susie here, lay down and let me just crack. And now you're good. Cause now I've acted as a doctor on the floor. Right.
And I'm sure that's easier said than done, especially for people who, if they work out too hard and they need to see a chiropractor, I'm not a businessman, but from a business standpoint, you certainly don't want it to seem like you're making people work out harder than they should so that you'll get more chiropractic work.
Yeah, creating more patients here, huh?
Right.
Oh, you should add some more to that deadlift, buddy.
Right.
That's you pansy. Come on.
Right. But you definitely need to separate it out.
Okay.
The other thing that came up, and hopefully for everyone that's listening, it won't come up with them, is the person that's injured and you think that they may end up bringing a suit or a claim, and they want to treat with you, even though they're going to bring a suit or a claim.
So this is somebody, I fell off, this, let's just say box. I'm doing box jumps at your gym under your workout.
Yep.
Fall on my back, jack up my neck, got a lot of pain, and I'm making some statements about, forget, they didn't even have to make statements. Then they go, hey, I really injured myself. I can't work out. I'm in a lot of pain, but I want to do my treatments through you. What do you think?
Right, and that's when you politely say it's a conflict.
Okay.
And the reason it's a conflict, and it's a tough decision, especially if it's a good patient, a good client that's been around forever. But I can foresee. Let's take that scenario a step further. You're treating the person, and 2 weeks in your notes, it says, 100%, this person can be released, and the person doesn't think they're 100%. Well, now they're going to say, well, sure, you said 100% because, it helps your case. It helps the defense case. And it's not good practice.
There's no objectivity there to say, this is my medical opinion.
Yeah.
It has absolutely nothing to do with my business opinion and absolutely nothing to do with me as a trainer, right?
Yeah. It complicates things. I mean, even if the person wants to come back and work out, it's a little bit complicated, but.
So you just say it's a conflict. You got to get a release from another doctor.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
For sure. From another doctor, letting you know that it's okay for them to proceed.
Okay.
And I know that sometimes we're real nitpicky, but that's what we're paid to do. But you don't want just a general release. If, let's say, the person broke their wrist, you want the release to say the wrist is well enough that they only have to return PRN, they only have to return as needed, and they can work out. Or if there are limitations, then it's your job as part of the trainer to know that, this person can't do kettlebells, but they could do, other way. They can do the TRX or something like that.
Are you a chiropractor or physical therapist working long hours, worrying about lower repayments and missing out on quality time with your family? You can double your income without working more hours by adding a gym to your practice. Clinic Gym Hybrid Solutions has a step-by-step guide that dramatically simplifies and speeds up the addition of a fitness center and its monthly recurring revenue. In just 6 months, you can be on your way to freedom. Visit clinicgymhybrid.com today for a free downloadable PDF and complimentary consultation to get you started. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.
Hopefully these clinicians aren't just teaching all the classes themselves, and they're in fact going to hire some trainers, right? Give them a little break and maybe a vacation at some point in their life, for God's sakes. But so they hire some trainers, and what are some things some conversations, some training, some ideas that you think that every physician should share with their trainers?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't just
because we would have those. You would do those in-services for us and kind of direct that.
And I wouldn't limit it to physicians. I mean, if I would limit it to any owner of a club, but in this instance, I know we're talking about blending, medical practice with a club. it's important that trainers give instruction. I always tell trainers, I don't care if there's one person in your class and that person's taken the class 800 times, you need to show them before each different move.
Demonstration of exercise.
You have to demonstrate the exercise because you don't want to have the one time that you didn't demonstrate it where there was the injury. You also have to always offer modifications. And that's after you've asked, hey, does anyone have any issues? Does anyone have any problems I should know about? Now, if you have a class of 50, if you're a bigger place, I know that's much more difficult. But if you have a class of 50, frankly, I think there should be 2 trainers in the room, but a lot of places won't pay for that. But
you're always spending money, man.
There
Put
you
more
go.
trainers in the room.
There you go.
Bump that payroll up, get an OSHA expert to comment on my 1,000 square foot facility here.
Right.
Jesus, man. Come on.
But modifications are...
but this could just be as simple, just to put this in gym terms. I got everybody foam rolling to start the class.
Right.
And I'm going, hey, how's everybody doing? Oh, high fives. It's great to see you. Thank you very much for coming down. Hey, is anybody dealing with anything we need to know about? Anybody got pain or blah, blah? And as long as I just get in the habit of saying that at the beginning, it's up to those people to go, you know what? I twisted my ankle the other day, so I don't think I'll be doing box jumps. I won't be jumping.
Right.
I won't be jumping rope. I won't be running, right?
Right. And the word habit, it's good to use that word because in the legal...
That's trained, baby. I've been trained by the best.
There you go. In the legal field, even if something isn't in writing, at trial, if you can establish that something is a true habit, for example, just the one you gave, every time for the last 15 years when I start a class, I always ask if everyone's okay. And that would come into evidence, whether or not you've made a check in a box or something that would be allowed. So it's good if it's a habit and you make it a habit and you tell your people, always ask how everyone's doing, always show how the exercise is done, and always, the biggest thing I've come across is modifications. There are some trainers who are more gung-ho than others, and they tell people, oh, you can do it, I know you can do it. And, sometimes that's okay, sometimes it's not. But most trainers know their people and know what their limits are.
But we see these people like, the big, beautiful gym that you and I attend, like the guy's got some 45-year-old chick that's 2 weeks into her new workout program, hasn't worked out in 15 years. She's on a BOSU doing overhead barbell press with way more weight than she can handle.
Yeah.
And he's encouraging her, and it's like, dude, what are you doing here? Like,
right.
that's a stupid exercise, but it's hard as hell. She's brand new. She doesn't have a lot of strength. And what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to think through this. Like, because the only thing that's going to happen is she gets injured, right?
Right. Yeah. You really have to think through who's in your class and, what their limitations, if any, are. Again, it sounds a lot simpler than it is, especially if you have 20, 30 in a class, maybe more. But that's why you offer modifications. If you have a class, let's say you have a class of 50 and you don't have time to go around to each person or even groups of people and say, how is everyone doing? A good trainer will always have like usually 3 levels of each thing. Of course, not like jumping jacks or something like that, something that's very simple, but especially if you're using weights or whatnot. But I've always heard in big classes, the good trainers will always say, all right, listen, if you're what we'd call a beginner, level 1, you're only going to use 5 pounds. If you're pretty comfortable with this, 10, and if you've been doing this for a while, 15.
I'll do one that you always would engage with. Yeah. Hey, the highest people are doing one-handed kettlebell swings. Middle row doing 2-handed kettlebell swings or standard kettlebell swing. And the beginners, we're just going to have you do kettlebell deadlifts, right?
Right.
Now, you're a nervous Nelly about your back, so you would just stick, even though you're advanced in knowledge, you're still like, hey, with my back, I'm going to stick with this beginner level on this exercise. Now, it goes to push-ups. You'll progress the hell out of them, right? But on that specific one, you always did that because we offered that as an option, right?
Right. And even so, the corollary in small groups, a good trainer will offer modifications that work the same muscles so that the person doesn't feel left out. There's a number of trainers that I know that, let's say a person can't do the kettlebell lifts kettlebell deadlifts. Maybe they're sore, maybe they don't have the muscle to do it, and you give them a PVC pipe so just so they can do hip hinges. So they're still working some of the same muscles. They're not feeling left out, and you're not risking pushing someone too far, too hard.
And from a training perspective, just as a little aside, it also gets everybody doing the same kind of movement, meaning if I say this guy's doing kettlebell swings, that guy's doing walking lunges. Well, now I have somebody walking in between my workout, like doing walking lunges where everybody else is stationary but swinging a weight. You have to think about those things because that becomes a risk,
right.
If it's one thing if everybody's sled pushing the sled the same way, but I don't want to say like, oh, don't do sled pushes, just do jumping jacks. And then you're in the middle of the turf doing jumping jacks as there's sleds going right by your ankles. But people do that. Like your modification should work in your logistical setup as well, which is not always easy to do.
Right.
But if I can't do deadlifts, maybe I go PVC pipe. Okay, I'm still standing there, both feet on the ground, and I can't do that. Okay, maybe I do glute bridges. I'm just laying in the same space I would have stood, but it keeps that organization to your class the same. And this is, part of that is just experience, which is it's Latin for screwing it up 1,000 times and learning from it, but
right.
So that's the point.
The other thing I tell a lot of the trainers is something you wouldn't necessarily hear in this arena, but I tell them no means no. If you have a client, if you have a patron that says, look, I can't do that. And then you say, I've seen you do even more. You just don't realize it. Maybe you should try. And they say, look, I just can't. You got to stop, because if they don't have the confidence in doing it, even if you know that they can do it, and then they hurt themselves, then you're in trouble. Because
you got no leg to stand on.
Right. You're the one that forced, quote unquote,
obviously.
forced them to do it. Yeah. So, and if a person doesn't have that confidence, that's fine. And that's part of your job as a trainer to give them that confidence, but it's not your job as a trainer to push them such that they're going to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And that's not even a legal standpoint, but from a legal standpoint, if they get hurt, that's the first thing they're going to say is, well, I wouldn't have done it if so-and-so didn't push me.
Yeah.
And that happens too. The other thing, we're talking about setting up, I want to make sure before we're done that we definitely mention waivers, because that's hugely important is to ensure that you have a liability waiver. And I know a lot of people will get one from their buddy or they'll find one, but you're always going to want an attorney to take a look at it because every place is a little different. Let's say your gym has a very dangerous something like the climbing wall, like you see on the American Ninja or whatever.
Yeah.
If you were my client and everything else was just normal, deadlifts and weights and this and that, but there was that climbing wall. In my waiver, I would put including but not limited to the climbing wall. You want to make things specific for you, and you want to make sure that everyone's signing them. I mean, I've seen a lot of clubs that maybe someone comes in as a guest and they say, oh, you know what, I work out all the time, don't worry about it. And you see the person at the club take their money for a guest pass or whatever it is and then not have them sign anything. I mean, that's the time. It's always the time when you don't do the right thing is when someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
So,
well, another common one is, you bring in your brother and he thinks we're going to market to him, and he's like, oh, I don't even live here. I don't want, I don't want your marketing crap. So when I say like, hey, can you sign this waiver? They do that wavy line thing that is not really their signature and they don't put their name legibly and they don't put a date on there and nobody looks because we just hand them a piece of paper, they hand it back and we think, oh, that's good.
Right.
But it's not legible. Therefore, if anything happened, we're hosed because do you have a waiver? Well, if I go tell my girl, hey, pull the waivers for whatever. And it's like, what was the person's last name? Oh, the person's last name was Smith. And she, well, this doesn't look like Smith. I mean, it looks like chicken scratch, but is this it? Now, we don't know. It might be, but I don't know if it is,
right.
And we got to check those things to go, hey, listen, and I'm guilty of this as well. It's got to be, you don't step onto the floor without a signed waiver.
Right.
Even if you have to tell a person, listen, we're not going to market to you. We're not going to send you emails.
Right.
But we have to have this signed waiver and I have to be able to read it. And sometimes it'll be like they'll just sign the bottom and they won't date it. They won't put their name, I, comma, blank. They won't fill their name at the top.
Right. And
they're just like, blah, blah, blah. And you feel like a jerk as a business owner going, no, man, I need you to sign this. But again, it's that habit thing,
Yeah. And I tell my clients, I say, you know what? Blame it on me. blame it on the stupid attorneys, blame it on the stupid insurance
So
companies.
everybody out there can say,
Yeah,
Kevin Diamond,
that's right.
listen, is a guy and is an attorney in Vegas, and he made me do this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, blame it on the insurance companies, blame it on the attorneys, but always have them sign it. And it actually strengthens the waiver if you explain it as they're signing it. And that way you can watch that they're signing it and explaining it. Now, I don't mean you have to give a 4-hour course on it, but it's a good thing, a good habit, whoever's checking the person in, whoever's sold them the membership, to say, look, just want you to know you're signing something indicating that, if you get injured here, you can't sue us. Just want you to know that, is what it says.
You can always tell a place that's been in a lawsuit because the person at the front desk is going, they have like a red colored pen and you have a blue pen and they're doing brackets. They go, this says that we will be doing training with kettlebells and other heavy implements. This next section says we may be running.
Right.
This next section says that, we may be doing pull-ups. Basically, I always look at that and I go, the only reason she's doing that is because she's trying to get both colors of ink on there so that she can go back and say,
Right.
I went over it with Mr. Diamond. Obviously, here are my pen marks. That's usually a place that's,
Right.
They're not doing that because their attorney did not tell them to, right?
Right. And you want to give them time. You always want to say, if you need a second to read this, go ahead. But don't let them say, you know what, let me sign it. I'll sign it when I'm done. I'm a member now.
Let me take it home and look over it and I'll bring it back.
Yeah, no. Yeah. That if they want to take it home, then
they can take their gym clothes home too as well.
Right. Yeah. Take your gym clothes with you.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, how about strengthening on that waivers and contracts? So let's say you got somebody on a high-end membership. We saw this a couple times, but sometimes people go like they'll come in 7 months later and go, I didn't know I was paying. I didn't know what the amount was for my membership, which I was like, how could you not know what you're,
right.
And it's not the first bill. It's like the 7th or 9th or 12th. And I remember going, I know what this is. This is the spouse getting pissed, right? Like that's obviously the code here, right?
Paying and the person's not coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they come in and we had a woman and she was like, I didn't know it was this much. Are there tips you have for people to sign them up, do the whole process, and then maybe give a, cooling off period or anything like that goes, hey, when they sign that other time, like it's as good as in stone.
Right. Well, there's if I remember correctly, I think there's a 3-day period.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if there's a statute about it. I think there is because...
Is that just here in Nevada?
Yeah,
or is
Nevada. But most states have what I guess you can call a cooling off period.
Okay.
Where you have a few days, and most states it's 3, and I believe it's 3 here in Nevada, to renege, so to speak. And the reason being is because most places will have you sign up for auto pay.
Okay.
And auto pay... you always, I think it's mandatory, and I know it's statutory here in Nevada, to give them that grace period of about 3 days to be able to cancel on the auto pay. Because obviously once it starts, it just keeps coming out automatically. That's why it's auto pay.
And it's bank draft, which is harder, contractually a higher level than even a credit card, whatever you want to say. EFT is the highest level of compliance that you can have.
Right.
Because we had to go through this with our billing company. They're like, make you sign on this crap and cross deposit and all this stuff.
But if you're talking about somebody who signs up for auto pay, the 3 days went by, they signed it and they've been a member now for months, and now they're not. They took all their money out of their bank account, and they're not paying.
I didn't know it was $400 a month and blah, blah. How do you get out legally?
So collections is a whole other animal, but
before it goes to collections, just basically saying like,
no. I mean,
go ahead.
You trying to collect.
Okay.
So as a business owner, I see collections in stages. The first stage is the nice letter. Even if I get hired to do collections, I always have clients send the first letter themselves.
Okay.
Because if you sick the attorney on them first, you might ruin...
The wall goes up.
Yeah, you might ruin a relationship that maybe somebody just forgot or, whatever. And I always say the first letter is the nice letter. Hey, you owe this, please make sure you pay it. The second letter or after the phone call, it's usually have the client send the letter, try to make the phone call. And then the next letter is from the attorney that says, you owe this. And that's my third stage is, not threatening anything, just because it's from an attorney, some people then will pay. And then the fourth letter is the one that says, if you don't pay this, we're filing suit, and we're going to try to collect our attorney's fees and costs, which will make this even more money that you owe. And, and then sometimes you got to actually file suit, and it's very rare.
Yeah, and
people would
especially in this micro
pay.
gym world where people are coming in all the time.
Yeah,
they want to be a member. They want to participate and whatnot. And we never really had a.
Although I would caution, and I apologize for interrupting, but I would caution if you have somebody who's been a longtime member and you want to work a deal with them. Let's say they've owed for 6 months, and let's say they're down $500 or whatever it is, and they want to do a payment plan. Things are tough now. Their business is this or that. I still would reduce the payment plan to something in writing. You just don't want to keep things informal when it comes to that, because you want to be sure that you can later on.
It's funny you mentioned that. So we had a woman that was working out with us, and we were charging $200 a month. She's like, "Hey, I lost my job, blah blah blah. I got laid off." And I said, "All right, listen, come in. I'll do it for $99 a month. As long as you can, and then when you get a new job, re-up it." And this is a systems problem. This was not her fault, but we're charging her $99 a month. She gets a job 3 months later, forgets to mention that she's still on the reduced payment plan. It's like a year and a half later, we realized, man, she's been paying $99 forever. And she's, traveling to Europe. She's doing all this stuff. And we're like, but we didn't go line item by line item review who's on our reduced things. We should have,
Right.
And so, we lost $100, an additional $100 times 12 or 14 months. So $1,400 that.
Right. That's a lot of money, especially for a mom and pop place.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. That wouldn't be bad, to pay. That's 2 months of power out here.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's just about keeping track. And I'm sure people that are listening probably already have a headache with all the things that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I suck the fun out of your business, but I'm the first to tell you that you're better off getting a little bit of a headache doing it beforehand than getting sued later. Mm-hmm. Just how it is.
Yeah, and that's from a guy who makes a lot of money when people sue. Like,
That's right.
You got to realize, he has a financial incentive for more lawsuits, but Kevin's such a good guy, he doesn't want you to get sued.
That's right. I don't want you to be sued.
And you, as an attorney, having the basis to go, hey, you go pound sand this. My client's right, you're wrong.
Yeah,
hit the bricks, right?
Right. Yeah. You want to. The more prepared you are, the better. It's just like anything.
Yeah. Now, you would do a great service for us, and I hope everybody can get such a great attorney. But you'd come in. You participated in our classes, so you kind of knew what we did. But even then, we had that. I remember the one in-service where you sat us all down and said, "Here's some things you guys are doing great. Here are some suggestions." And I don't know if most attorneys would do that, but certainly I think it'd be worth it to bring in your attorney and say, "Listen, we're doing blah blah blah." It's kind of like a review of symptoms, a review of systems when you're making a diagnosis on an injury. But just saying, are we? Right. Let me show you my waiver. So you're saying, show them the waiver. Here's our contract for billing. Right. Here's what we have people do. Are we in the right place here?
I think if it's an attorney who wants the work to put in an hour, or hour and a half at your club to just go over things, most attorneys should do that. Uh-huh. If you're going to pay them to be, your counsel, they're going to want to be familiar with how you do things anyway. And they should do that free of charge, just to meet everybody and just to take a look around and kind of tell people what they should be looking out for. Mm-hmm. It never hurts, that's for sure.
Right. And the other thing is when you would always say if anything happens, just document it. That I remember we had this discussion, but sometimes that seems intimidating. Oh man, I got to do this incident report and all this. But you said just take out your iPhone and record a quick video of here's what she was standing on, here's the bar she was holding, and it, it's time stamped, it's date stamped. Just explain what happened.
Figure out who the witnesses were, who was there.
Bam, I've got it. Literally 2 minutes on my iPhone. Hell, you do more selfie videos on Instagram and Facebook, right? And it's easier than that, but at least then I have something. Right. And then to alert the manager, de facto owner, manager, whatever you want, and say
the insurance company,
right, this occurred.
Yeah.
Tell the insurance company, here's what occurred. Send them the information. And a lot of times we probably had 3 or 4 things that that's where it ended.
Right.
We sent the information off. Hey, I'm worried about this. Person came back 3 days later. No problem.
Right. Well, and in almost every insurance policy in almost every state, you have an obligation to report incidents, report claims when they happen. So some insurance agents will look at you and roll their eyes and say, I'm sorry, the person broke their pinky toe and you're telling me about it. But
right, well, that's a tough thing to know.
You're saying, I would say to that insurance agent, hey, I would rather tell you too much than not tell you and then get my coverage denied.
Right. But I mean, in a gym, it's especially tough because to some point, let's say somebody strains their back deadlifting, right?
Right.
Okay, is that a reportable injury? Is that just part of the game? Because there are a lot of places that go, that's just part of the game. Well, we're this higher level, functional training gym. That should never happen. Yeah. Did I make the right modifications? Did I demonstrated all this and I just go, oh, that's just Kevin. He always pushes it too hard.
Right. And that certainly is a judgment call. There will be some on the fence.
Right.
But it never hurts.
But I think that the important thing is, especially to the owner of the thing, set the precedent that you report. Like almost if you could get a fake report for everybody to happen, at least they're comfortable with how it works. I whip out my iPhone, I film it, I send it off, I alert the owner who alerts the insurance company, and we follow up, right?
Right.
And even if it goes, hey, dude, you did the right thing, it's not even an issue, that's better than the opposite, which is, ooh, I forgot to tell you. Like I was really happy. One of our trainers one time called me and said, it was like 8:30, and I go, what's, why are you calling me? He's like, I want to tell you that I was loading up weights and a weight came off the barbell and it hit the ground, it rolled and it hit so-and-so in the leg and blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't an issue. It was like a non-issue. Is she okay? Yeah. She complained about pain? No. What happened? It literally fell off like a wheel. So 45-pound bumper plate, and it just like rolled towards her and hit her in the shin. Right. And it was just a event more than it was an injury. She didn't have a problem. He didn't think it was an issue, but I just wanted to let you know. And it's like, right on. We're in the right place then.
That's funny because those are the type of things you'd be surprised at how many people that bring a claim would not have brought a claim had the premises owner here, the club, the gym, just asked how they're doing, maybe called the next night. You don't need to offer things. You don't need to pay for, bring them out to dinner or something, but if you show you care, sometimes that makes a big difference. I mean, when I do work for hotels, I hear all the time, if they would have just offered me a free buffet or whatever it is, it's the follow-up and it's showing that you care about them. But I can tell you that if you ignore it, so let's say someone gets hurt and the trainer just says, you're fine, and no one calls, no one follows up, and then you hear that the person is actually in the hospital. No one even calls to say, hey, how you doing? Sorry, this happened. You don't need to admit that you did something wrong, but you can say, I'm sorry, you're injured. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way. That's not legal. That's just, to me, that's just common sense, but it could prevent a claim.
Well, it's like you coached me up on malpractice as well. Like malpractice rarely is brought up because of the malpractice, right? Like, hey, I did this wrong, and I did the wrong treatment, I did the wrong diagnosis, all this. That's rarely the reason that the suit is brought, right? It's usually that guy was a jerk,
right?
Or he was an a-hole. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, if it was down to like, excuse me real quick. If it was the wrong medical diagnosis, that happens way more often than there are malpractice suits, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to fall on your sword. If you know that you did something wrong, and if you're nice about it, sometimes you can prevent the claim. I mean, not always. And it's my job to tell people, don't ever admit fault. You were always supposed to say that, but at the very least, you can say, I'm sorry it happened.
And acknowledge something happened.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, you did fall.
Yeah. I mean, the lady who tripped over we talked at the start about the lady who tripped over the noodles by the pool. I mean, she was injured. I mean, there's no question, and we were sorry that she was injured. And
I'll admit it. You hate old ladies.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The older, I hate them. You acknowledge it. You say you're sorry, but that's it. You stop there. But sometimes that goes a long, long way. for people.
Well, that little conversation right there would be fantastic for everybody listening, your attorney to have with your staff. So sit everybody down, buy them a sandwich if you have to, and just have your attorney come in and talk, because just knowing that language, hey, don't say this, but do say this, can go a long way, right?
Right. I agree.
Excuse me, I'm coughing here. But anyways, all right, Kevin. Well, this has been a lot of information. I hope people are not in the fetal position crying about all the money they'll need to spend on the front end.
Right.
But I think you did provide some great info.
Let me give a tiny plug that if by chance you have any other questions, even if you're from another state, please feel free to give me a call. Our law firm's website is thorndal.com. It's THORNDAL.com, and you'll find my pretty picture, Kevin Diamond, on the website. And feel free to give me a call at any time if
I'll tell you what, we'll
help.
put that in the show notes, a link in the show notes for everybody, so they can reach out to you, and maybe they can just say, hey, I heard you on this podcast. I got a couple of questions. And
there are people actually listening?
There's 3 of them. I mean, my brother, my sister, and I got one other guy in Tennessee. I think he's pretty hot on it. But they can reach out if they have any questions. And least you could do is maybe you can refer to them or help them find somebody in their area.
Sure.
Huh?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Very cool. All right. Well, Kevin, on behalf of everyone listening, I want to say thank you. And on behalf of Clinic Gym Radio, this is Dr. Josh Satterley saying, go out there, maximize your license, and live the life you dreamt of. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Clinic Gym Radio. If you're ready to double your profit without working longer hours, please visit clinicgymhybrid.com and find out how easy it is to get started on your path to freedom. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.